I can do. I'm not much of a movie star.
Okay. Well, I don't think any of us are. But we're all heroes, right? Okay, listen, this is Jory Vanderberg. I'm the 388 Fighter Wing historian, and I'm here conducting interviews with the 388th Bombardment Group Heavy at the 63rd Annual 388 Bomb Group Reunion being held here in Savannah, Georgia. And today's date is 31 August 2012. And I'm currently conducting an interview of the following individual.
My name is Joseph Eugene Hallem.
Okay.
And I am from Southern Illinois.
Okay.
As my birthplace.
All right.
But we moved around quite a bit.
Okay.
And I entered the service from Alton, Illinois as recruiting,
okay.
as far as recruiting is concerned.
Okay.
And because I was 18 years of age, the recruiter said I had to have my mother's signature.
Okay.
At the present time, I was living with another family at Alton, Illinois,
okay.
going to high school.
All right.
So I hitchhiked about 100 miles to my hometown, and my mother signed the papers, and then I hitchhiked back, gave them to the recruiter.
Okay.
And then the recruiter accepted those papers, and then I was sent to Peoria, Illinois,
Okay.
to be sworn in, to be physically examined,
Okay.
and to be sworn in to service and take the oath
Okay.
to defend our country.
So they take you through the medical eval and
Right.
pass that, and then you
Right.
Okay.
Then they put us on a train, and we arrived in Scott Field.
Okay. Oh, excuse me. By the way, what was the date? Do you remember the date when all this kind of got started?
I entered the service September the 10th, 1942.
Okay. September 10, 1942.
Yes. And then they put us on the train at Peoria. We entered, went to Scott Field that night, got there about 3:30, and the sergeant said, make your beds, get as much sleep as possible, because you're going to be up at least 5:30 in the morning. So we did what we could.
Yes, sir.
And we went, they led us through a medical department with a doctor on each side, and we got a shot in one arm and in the other at the same time. And from there, we went to another building to take the IQ test.
Okay.
And I never did find out what the score was.
Right.
And from there, we left that base the next day or so and entered Jefferson Barracks.
Okay.
And as we were going into Jefferson Barracks marching, soldiers were with the windows open in the barracks singing, "You'll be sorry." And in a sense we were.
Yes.
Well, that's where we started our basic training.
Okay.
And during our basic training, they interrupted it, sent us to a particular building where they examined us for radio signals and see if we were material for a flying career.
Okay.
And then they interrupted our basic training and sent us by train to Las Vegas, Nevada at a flying school.
Okay.
And it was a gunnery school, really.
All right.
So we started out with 22s, rifles, pistols, and then marched on to bigger guns.
Okay.
And one of the tests, we had a kind of a horseshoe pavement, and we were on the pickup truck, sitting on a seat, and we were shooting a 12-gauge shotgun at pigeons coming out from the ground, and we had to hit so many of those for us to pass that exam to stay in gunnery school.
Okay. These are real live pigeons or target pigeons?
Target pigeons.
Oh, okay.
But they went every which way. Okay.
They were robotic in that sense.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Oh, by the way, is this in that classification center? Is it because what they ended up doing is they determined that you were going to be a gunnery person?
They were persuaded I was going to be a radio man.
Okay.
But a radio man had to man a gun at
Okay,
that
you still
time.
need to do that. Okay.
So, and then we passed that test, and then we went to skeet shoot standing with a tall house on one side, lower house on the other,
Okay.
and the clay pigeons come out, and we had to hit so many of those in order to pass the test and stay in school.
Okay.
Well, we successfully did that.
Okay.
And then we had a moving target on a railroad track. And we were not allowed to shoot any gun as the target was moving near us. We had to hit it far away. So we used 30 caliber machine guns on a post to start with, ring and bead sight. And they had colored ammunition. Joseph E. Hallem would receive blue one day, red the next day, and you had to get so many hits on that target to pass that test.
Okay.
And then they put us in a ball turret position. Taking too much time?
No, you're doing fine.
We had to go into ball turret, and we had to do the same thing. We had to hit this moving target with colored ammunition,
Okay.
and in order to get past that, well, the next step was to fly. We had flying sergeants,
Okay.
and they were somewhat critical because other pilots were getting second lieutenants in graduation, and these fellows were flying sergeants, and they'd been flying for years.
Okay.
And they wanted to be in combat, and they wouldn't release them to go to combat.
Okay.
They kept them at the training school. And so we were given colored ammunition, 30 caliber machine guns, posted on one side of this fighter plane, sitting halfway out of the plane with their feet locked in, and a plane far away from us, flying, pulling a target, and we had colored ammunition, and we had to get so many hits on that target.
Okay.
And we passed that.
All right.
Well, passing that school, we immediately were given the rank of buck sergeant.
Okay.
And then we were shipped to Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay. And do you remember the date that when you were sent to Salt Lake City?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay. But it was
That was a 5-week school, I believe.
okay. So you kind of started in September when you first came
Right,
in.
right.
And went to the classification center, and then you went to this gunnery school. It's about 5 weeks, so maybe about 6-7 weeks in. So then
Yeah.
maybe you're looking at
Yeah.
early, maybe November sometime.
Yeah.
November 42.
Well, it was very cold at the time we went into Salt Lake City, and we lived in Tent City for a while. And because the class in front of us, a radio class, had not graduated yet.
Okay.
So it was cold, so it was either the latter part of November, first part of December.
Okay.
And then we didn't have any way to keep heat all night long. So we were very happy when the people in the radio school graduated.
Okay.
They moved us into the barracks. And then we started radio school.
Okay.
The man in charge of the radio school was had the rank of corporal, a very brilliant person, and we studied all of the equipment that would be in a B-17. We learned the Morse code. We sent and received the Morse code in practice.
Okay.
And you had to at least pass what they consider a minimum test in order to be accepted as a radio operator.
Okay.
And from Salt Lake City, Utah, when we graduated, that was a 6 weeks radio course.
Okay.
Compared to Scott Field, which is about 3 months. So we went to Boise, Idaho, to Gowan Field,
Okay.
and then men were coming in from all over,
Okay.
and they began to sign pilots' names on the big board at the base, and then the crew members.
Okay.
So I ended up with a man by the name of Lieutenant Henry Rogers.
Okay.
He was our pilot.
He was your lead pilot?
And
Okay.
he was an excellent pilot, okay?
Okay.
And would you like the name of the crew member?
Yes, sir. Because by this time, we'll say this is like maybe by the first of the year, January 1943.
Yeah,
So now you're basically certified as a radio operator.
Right.
You're certified as a gunner, so you
Right.
know how to do that. And then now you're assigned to a permanent crew
right.
on a B-17. And who?
Right.
Yes. Who are the names? Starting with the pilot, co-pilot, bombardier, navigator.
The pilot was, as I said, was Lieutenant Henry Rogers. I have forgotten the name of the co-pilot. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. That's okay.
Our bombardier was named Lieutenant Smith,
Okay.
and our navigator was Lieutenant Flora.
Okay.
Our top turret gunner and flight engineer was named Franklin. His last name was Franklin.
Okay.
And I was the radio operator. Our ball turret gunner was named Palicki, his last name,
Okay.
and an assistant radio operator. One of our waist gunners was named Kelly Hill. The other one was named Buzz Sawyer,
Okay.
and tail gunner was named Jack Ford.
Okay.
And this crew virtually stayed together all through training
Okay.
and all through mission work.
Okay. I'll get you, just hold on one second.
All right.
Hold on, please. Okay, we're on again.
Did I tell
Okay.
you my age?
Uh,
I was 18 years old.
Yes, sir, you're 18 years old, and at the time, if you were over 21, you could just enlist, but if
Right.
you're under 21, you had
You
to
had
get
to
your
get
parents'
signature.
signature.
So that's
Okay, all right.
all
Okay,
right.
so,
We are in Gowan Field
Gowan
now,
Field.
Boise, Idaho, and that's where we got our first month's training as a crew.
as a crew. Is
We
this the
went-
first time you actually got into a B-17?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And at that time, our flight engineer was made staff sergeant,
Okay,
and I was staff sergeant,
okay,
and all of the rest enlisted men were staff sergeants.
okay,
Then we spent a month in Gowan Field in Boise, Idaho,
okay,
and from Boise, Idaho, we went to Wendover Field, Utah, as a group.
okay. All right,
That's a bomb group.
okay. It's a bomb group.
And we trained there for a month.
Okay. Let me ask you real quick, what squadron did you end up being assigned to?
562nd Squadron.
Okay, the 566
Yeah.
second. Okay,
Our pilot was checked out at Wendover Field
Okay.
as an acceptable pilot to fly B-17 in combat.
okay.
And so we were all very happy about that.
Yeah, that's kind of a good thing to have.
So,
Let me ask you real quick
Yeah.
about when you got to Gowan, when you left Gowan Field, because I I'm presuming that was a pretty much well-established base at the
Yes.
time? Okay.
Yes.
When you went to Wendover, what were the facilities at Wendover Field at the time?
Well, it was runways, mess hall, training school. We had to continue to do ground training
Yes, sir.
as well as flight training and barracks.
Okay.
That's about what
Sure.
I remember it to be.
All right. Do you remember seeing any hangars? Were there any hangars there, or were just repair work
No,
done
I
out?
didn't. I don't remember any hangars. There could have been hangars there,
Okay.
but I don't remember them. You
All right.
know?
And was the runway, was it paved? Or was it grass fields or dirt fields out there? Do you remember?
That escapes me too.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. No, that's fine. I was just kind of curious about what were the facilities out there at the
And
time?
during those, during that month there, our pilot would give us opportunity to fly the plane so the waist gunners would be able to shoot targets on the ground.
Okay.
And we went through that kind of training.
Okay.
And then after that, we went to Sioux City Highway,
Okay.
and we were there for about a month.
Okay.
And that was a well-established airfield. And unfortunately, I went down to the gym, and the man in charge of the gym set me up in a boxing match.
Oh, yeah. And what were you thinking at the time?
And I was thinking, you know, I really don't want to do this, but he kept saying, I will match you with a person your own size and age and experience.
Oh, okay.
Well,
And you believed it?
and I believed him. And so the match came. I had no corner man. My closest friend Jack felt like he didn't want to come over. So, well, it was a 3-round fight, okay? I won the first round, and he hit me so hard the second time that I saw birds chipping and lights flashing, and I held on, okay?
Okay.
Got through the second round. Well, I won the third round because he couldn't come out. He had hurt his arm when
Hitting
he,
you so.
yeah. So I won that, and I had a headache for 3 days
Okay.
because he got me right in there, you
In
know.
the jaw part.
And then from there, from Boise, Idaho, we went to Washington, I believe it was, Washington State, for a bomb run trip out over the ocean
Okay.
for ships that were designed for that purpose,
Okay.
floating ships. And we dropped flour sacks, the bombardiers did,
Okay.
so to give us practice, you know. And so they evaluated that as success. And so we were flying this plane, and the pilot said we need to name our plane.
Okay.
So all of us dropped a name in a hat. Well, the one that was pulled out was Waluka Maui.
Well, Luca Maui.
Yes.
That sounds kind of Hawaiian.
That's Hawaiian.
Okay.
And the reason for that, sir, is the bombardier was in school with a man from that island
Okay.
and city.
Okay.
So, but as we flew the plane, we never did put the name on it.
Oh, okay. You just nicknamed it that.
Yeah.
And that was that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so from Sioux City, we went to Salina, Kansas to be checked out again.
Okay.
They checked all of our men and said, all right, you're accepted.
Okay.
So from Salina, Kansas, we went to Syracuse, New York, refueled, and then went to Bangor, Maine, and refueled.
Okay.
And that was the last check of the plane to
All right.
see if it had pictures that were not acceptable to go overseas painted on it, okay?
Oh, okay.
So
And this was about June of 1944, 43?
This would have been June in that area, yeah.
43. Do you remember the exact date you actually arrived at that
No,
embarkation point?
no, I don't.
No, but
But
June
it was
43.
Yeah, it was in June of 43.
Okay.
And we then we went to Newfoundland, flew from Bangor, Maine to Newfoundland.
Okay.
We refueled there, and then we took the northern route from Newfoundland to Prestwick, Scotland.
Okay.
We had a couple of experiences on the way. One, we ran into a storm.
Okay.
I looked out of the radio room and the ice was about an inch thick on my antenna. And the pilot about that time called up and said to the crew, we're in a storm and ice is forming on our wings and we'll have to go above the storm. And I said, sir, I know that we're in a storm and ice is there because I can see it. And he said, fine. So we went up high above the storm, and apparently he judged it properly.
Okay.
And then we came down lower, and our navigator wanted to take a fix. Well, none of the enlisted men knew what a fix was. And the navigator dropped a flare in the ocean, and we flew in a circle
Okay.
around that flare until he got his fix. And apparently he was correct, because as we flew into Scotland, he called me on the intercom and said, Joe, you should be hearing the radio signal from Prestwick, Scotland about this time. And about that time it started going beep, 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 beep. He missed the estimated time of arrival by about 1 second.
Wow.
And we flew into Prestwick Air Base, stayed there. Then from there we went to Netteshaw,
Okay. Your final destination.
our final destination.
Okay.
And we were all together, all of us.
Now, how
Well-
many bombers flew on that particular?
I don't know, because we were the only one that we knew that was at that time.
Okay, so you were kind of like going solo? Going
Yeah.
across solo?
Yeah,
There weren't any other bombers with you?
no bombers with us.
Wowzers.
And we heard all kinds of stories. We heard, as we were leaving Newfoundland, we heard, well, the one or two ditched, another two or three we hear got lost and landed in Germany. And you know, GI stuff.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Skull
Well,
hut
we
stuff.
safely got there. Am I running you late?
No, we're doing French. We're just doing
So then we landed in Netteshaw,
Okay.
and as the story is told, I cannot verify this, but 15 minutes after our planes started coming in as a base at Netteshaw, we got a message from Lord Haw Haw or Sally Axis, one or the other, saying we welcome the 388th Bomb Group to the European Theater of Operation, and we will try to make your stay here as pleasant as possible.
Whoa. So
And
the
we
Nazis knew you were coming.
And the Nazis knew we were there.
You were there.
Well, we took that with a grain of salt and looked at each other and said, well, we're in it, you know.
Burn it down.
So the main offices were there, like for, the commander, Lieutenant Colonel David,
Okay.
and his adjutant, a man by the name of Cox,
Okay.
C-O-X.
Okay. And he ultimately became the second group
Yes,
commander.
the second crew.
Okay.
And then our squadron commanders were coming in. I don't remember the name of my squadron commander.
All right. Well, you were you were still with the 562nd?
562nd.
All right.
And
Do you remember how many bombers were there by the time you arrived?
No, I don't.
Okay.
You know, it was all so new, and we were
Okay.
trying to get our feet on the ground and see what was going to happen.
Okay. And fully outfitted, how many bombers were in your individual squadrons? Do you remember?
At the time that we were there, we considered 6 bombers as a squadron.
Okay.
So we had, and then
Is that a flight or a squadron?
a squadron, 6 bombers, and it was the 560th, 561st, 562nd, 563rd.
Okay.
Plus we had, I believe, 3 spare 17s that came in as well.
Okay.
So that if you add that up, that's the number.
Okay.
And then we we got adjusted to the
Okay.
English life.
All right. What were the facilities like there at Netteson?
Well, it was just the basic facilities when we got there.
Okay.
You know, the mess hall,
Okay.
the offices for the officers,
Okay.
the Quonset huts for the enlisted men.
All right.
The jeeps were there. The roads were there. I believe the MPs were there.
Okay.
So, I mean, you knew it was a military base.
Yes, sir.
And so we made do with what we had
Okay.
at the time. We had our I need to tell you this, we had our B4 bags with us and our flying clothes with us.
Okay.
So, and then we had, in addition, a parachute department
Okay.
that each man had a parachute, you know. So that's about what it was
Okay.
as we moved into Nettershaw.
All right.
Well,
Do you remember much about any of the maintenance, or do you know anything about the maintenance?
well,
maintenance side?
our chief ground engineer, we were assigned a crew to our plane, and they were an excellent crew. They flew every mission in their mind and heart with us.
Okay.
And they saw that our plane was ready to fly at the time. And names are escaping me, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
You know. And they had a tent for themselves
Okay.
at the plane. The flyers had a tent. We helped the ground crew rotate the props.
Okay. And what was the purpose of rotating the props like that? Were y'all would
To
walk?
get them ready to for the engine to be able to turn them over.
Okay, like to kind of like get the oil to lubricate the parts.
Get the things going.
Okay.
Okay.
The oil that's pools down at the bottom to get
right,
the.
right.
Okay.
And we all chipped in.
Okay.
All the enlisted men chipped
All right.
in.
And about how many revolutions would y'all typically need to do
Well,
for each engine?
I think we would go like 5,
Okay.
maybe 5 minutes of an engine, you
Okay.
know, all 4 engines. And then we would have some time.
Okay.
And I need to tell you this too. When we left the United States, our flight engineer was promoted to tech sergeant,
Okay.
and I was promoted to tech sergeant
Okay.
as a radio operator. The other men were still staff sergeants, enlisted men.
All right. You listen.
All right, the bombardier was a lieutenant, navigator was a lieutenant, the co-pilot was a lieutenant, and the pilot was a lieutenant.
Okay. Now, were they all first lieutenants?
Yeah,
By this
no,
point?
second,
They were all second lieutenants?
yeah.
Okay.
And we flew our first mission in July,
Okay.
and we went to Bergen, Norway, as a fake mission
Okay.
to draw the Germans away from the real mission of the 8th Air Force that was going into France.
Okay.
So it was just kind of like getting us used to, this is what you're going to be doing. you
All
know.
right.
And so then we turned around and came back.
Did the Germans launch fighters to intercept y'all
No,
on that? So you just
I don't remember that we had any flak. Well, we didn't really get to Norway.
because you stayed in the ocean.
We stayed in the ocean.
Okay.
And then we were very slow as a crew getting our mission started because damaged planes were beginning to use our plane as a replacement.
Okay.
So our chief engineer finally got to the point where he sat all night on top of our plane with a rifle in his hand
Yeah.
to protect our plane. And then we got parts to replace the parts that had been taken,
Okay.
and our plane was flyable again.
So they were cannibalizing your plane
Yeah,
without
right.
your permission.
And at the time it was like, well, you know, that's okay, because, you know, we were catching on to, we were asking people that flew, where's the best place to fly? You know, and see, of course we didn't have authority
Yeah.
to select where we're going to fly, but we were anxious anyway to find out. And then later, we began flying missions as the missions came along.
Okay.
And we found out what we were getting ourselves into.
Alrighty.
All
So
right?
do you remember your first real combat mission?
It was
Well, we
over in
actually-
Hanover, Germany.
Okay. We went over to Hanover. What was
Hanover,
that?
Hanover,
What was that
it was, and we were bombing, as I recall, we were bombing a synthetic rubber plant.
about? Okay.
And that's where we met our first German fighters
Okay.
as a crew. And we could see them coming from the airfield, coming up,
Okay.
and they took us all the way to Hanover, Germany. That one group would come up, run out of gas, go down, next crew would come up, and they had us plotted right to our target.
Okay. And they just wait till you got to their
Yeah.
runway.
Yeah.
No sense in
And
wasting
then they would
wait.
come up. And then we successfully bombed our target, and then coming around, they picked us up again and was taking us home, okay, fighting us all the way back
Get you coming
out of
up.
Germany.
Okay.
And even at that time, it was dangerous to go into Germany. You know,
It was very
less,
dangerous at that time.
very much less dangerous to go into France, but that was dangerous enough.
Okay.
So, and a humorous part of this, we were flying out of Germany. They were withdrawing from their attack on us. One of their planes was lagging behind, going out. Our ball-turret gunner gave him a burst to fire. He stopped. He turned around. He knew who shot at him.
Oh, yeah.
He came back and he gave us a couple of bursts. He didn't hit us.
Yeah.
And when we got home, we landed, and we had 9 men talking to our ball-turret gunner
Yeah.
and saying, if the plane is coming toward us, shoot at him.
Yeah.
If he's going away from us, Leave him alone.
Yeah, don't pick a fight when you don't need to.
Right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, you know, that's one of the humorous things
Yeah.
that, you know, took place. And it was all, you know, taken in stride.
Yes,
you
sir.
know.
Okay.
And
But that was
they-
early on tactics.
Right.
It's everybody get on the same
Right.
game page here.
Right.
Okay.
Then, because we weren't getting missions rapidly, our co-pilot transferred to another crew.
Okay.
And he told us he had piled up about 11 or 12 missions, but but in one of the early missions, 12 or 13, coming back from a mission, they were lost in the flight, and they ran into a hill, and that plane was lost,
Okay.
and he was lost. So we picked up a co-pilot by the name of Lewis,
Okay.
and he became our regular co-pilot and flew the rest of the missions with us.
Was he our crazy dancing fool tonight?
No,
Different Lewis. Okay.
different.
Yeah.
He was about your size,
Okay.
but he was a good flyer, you know, and so he stayed with us. Our pilot was happy with him,
Okay.
and we all knew him, and we were satisfied with him too.
Okay.
And so he stayed with us, and then we started picking up missions.
Okay.
We were in the Little Blitz Week.
All right. That was at the end of July of
Yeah.
43.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were in that, and we flew quite rapidly after that, and we probably the most notable raid that we flew was the shuttle raid
Okay.
from England to Regensburg, Germany to North Africa.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, part of the bombers from our, I think we had three groups
Okay.
with us, and we were hit at the target at Regensburg. We were going to bomb a ball bearing factory and an airfield,
Okay.
and we were hit there with about 75 German fighters.
Okay.
Well, we got our job done. We were, our group, I think we lost possibly one plane, but we lost more planes and in other groups. And the group that went to Switeford, we went to Regensburg to North Africa.
Okay.
They went to Switeford. It was a double strike.
Okay.
And they were to turn around and come back to England. Well, they lost about 30 planes at Switeford.
Okay.
And we were in we landed, some of our group that was with us, the bomb groups, some of those didn't make it over the Mediterranean Sea. Some of them were picked up by Allied boats. Some were picked up by German U-boats.
Okay.
But when the groups that flew with us lost some planes that way.
Okay.
And we landed.
Having to be ditched.
Yeah,
'cause
having to
they're
be
not
ditched.
kind of deal. But none of them were shot down except for
No.
the one.
Yeah,
Okay. From your
that
particular
I
group.
remember.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds that's
From
what
my
I've heard
group.
before.
From my group.
Yes,
Now, I
sir.
don't know how many were shot down from the other groups.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
But just from the 388th group.
No, from the 562nd Squadron.
Oh, I'm sorry, from the all right, from the squadron. Okay.
But from the other, we didn't lose any of our squadron. But the group lost one or two planes, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right.
It's been over 60 years ago.
Yes, sir. All right.
We stayed in North Africa about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And we found our airfield, and we backed our plane, and we slept in our plane and under our plane for 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you, Uncle Sam.
And right behind us was an Arab hut.
Okay.
It was a large hut, and in that hut, believe it or not, men and women, boys and girls, moved into that hut, and animals that they owned went into that hut at night.
Okay. Well, safer.
Safer. And
Jackals and
then
wolves.
one of the members of that family came over to look over our B-17, and we politely escorted him away from the plane. You know, we didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
So then we got our orders. We got our orders to return to England.
Okay.
So we, while we were there, the sand blew into our flaps, wing flaps.
Okay.
And we got into the air with our formation. We found out that our flaps would not come up because they had sand in them, and we had to fly all the way back to England with the flaps down, and it was a hard pull on the engines. But we made it back. We bombed a submarine base at Bordeaux, France.
Okay.
On the coast, went across France, and what is that, the Bay of Biscayne there?
Bay of Biscayne, yeah.
And
Bottom.
and then came into England to our airport.
Okay.
And we were in the traffic pattern, but we were practically out of gas. And our pilot had to leave. He called in to see if we could move out of the traffic pattern and land our plane, because we were going to either land it or have to land it someplace else.
Okay.
So they wouldn't let us leave the traffic pattern. So he said, well, I have to find a place to set the plane down. So we pulled out of the traffic pattern, found a place, an English wheat field, and we pulled up our landing gears, and our pilot glided the plane in to this wheat field.
Okay.
And the gunners had stored their guns, and everybody except the pilot and co-pilot were in the radio room, which was normal procedure for a crash landing. And everyone was safe, but the plane was not. It was gone.
Kind of messed it up.
It was gone. And the delicate thing about it was we were flying our squadron commander's plane on this mission.
Great.
And that little angel didn't fly anymore. That was its name.
Okay.
So he had to get a new plane. But and a strange thing happened, which, as I look back, was probably normal at the time. When our plane stopped in this wheat field, the locals of that neighborhood, am I talking too long?
No, you're fine.
The locals in that neighborhood gathered around this plane with pitchforks, shotguns, rifles, and clubs.
Okay. They were not happy campers.
And they didn't know who we were. And so the pilot said, all right, be careful. You know, move out slowly, tell them you're Americans as soon as you open the door. Well, you know, we opened the door, Americans, showed them the 8th Air Corps patch,
Okay.
and they were okay then.
Okay.
And then the pilot said, Sergeant Hallem, would you go to the road and find the car and go to the base and tell them, you know, where we are and that we're
Okay.
safe. So it just so happened, you know, I walked through, I guess he thought I looked more English than the rest of them, I don't know. But I walked through the locals and they didn't bother. And I walked out onto the road and here was a master sergeant with a Jeep, just happened to be coming by.
Okay.
And he stopped and he said, "Are you with the plane that just crashed?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Get in, I'll take you to the base."
Okay.
Well, Lieutenant Rogers said, "Joe, I want you to come back with the crew, with the group that's going to pick up the crew." I said, "Yes, sir." And when I got to the base, I had to talk to a major. And he said, "Sergeant, you stay here." I said, "But sir, my pilot said for me to return." He said, "Look here." He said, "What rank is your pilot?" I said, "He's a second lieutenant." He said, "Well, I'm a major. You stay here." I
Okay.
said, "All right, I'll stay here." So they finally found him. They brought him back to the room. First thing my pilot said was, "Joe, I thought I told you to come back to the plane." I said, "You did, but the major said for me to stay here." So I said, "Sir, I was between a rock and a hard place," you know. He said, "Forget it, it's all right."
Okay.
So they debriefed us,
Okay.
and then the very next day, they put us in a plane and took us up.
Okay. Well, you got to get back in the air. You got
Yeah.
a job to do.
Yeah, and it was like you had to get over the fact that you crash landed. You could not be fearful of, and develop a phobia of flying, you
It
know.
was still a good landing. You all got out and
Yeah,
walked, right?
right,
That's always a
right.
good landing.
That's a good
When they
landing.
got to have the ambulance
Right.
to haul you out, that's not a good landing.
Yeah, that's a
It's
good
a joke
landing.
we always had in pilot school. That
So,
as long as you can walk away, it's a good landing.
so we
Okay.
were all safe, we were all,
Okay.
and we all stayed together.
All right. Now, were you able to kind of do that as an accomplishment throughout the entire tour of duty that you had? That you were able to, you know, basically once you got that new co-pilot, that second co-pilot, that team stayed, that crew stayed throughout through the duration?
The crew stayed throughout except our navigator,
Okay.
and we lost our navigator. I don't know if I told you the story or not.
No, sir, I don't think so.
But it was a very unusual thing. All the flyers were in the tent, getting ready, waiting for takeoff time, and you know, to get into the plane.
Yes, sir.
And he opened the flap of the tent, and he said, "I'm going to the parachute department to see if we all got our parachutes." Well, we were all responsible for our own parachutes, okay?
Okay.
And I don't know why he did that. But I was lying on a couch, and when I started to get up, I was going to go with him. There was something like a hand put on my shoulder,
Okay.
and I could not move forward. I didn't fight it, and I just moved back down. I couldn't say anything. And the navigator went to the parachute department, and he was coming back. And of course, we had blackout, and the
Yes,
trucks had on these little amber lights,
Okay.
and he was run over by a truck.
Whoa.
And that he eventually passed away. But outside of that,
Okay.
you know, we were all together.
So no
Through-
combat deaths, just
No combat deaths.
non-combat deaths.
Non-combat
Wow,
deaths.
that is amazing. And how many missions did you end up getting accomplished?
We flew tour duty when I was there in 1943 was 25 missions.
Okay.
But the average accomplished missions was 15.
Okay.
So we were very fortunate to finish
To get your 25.
to get our 25.
Okay. And then at that time, did they release you to come back to the States? Or did they?
Well,
What happened?
Lieutenant Colonel David called me into his office because we were the first crew of the 388th Bomb Group to finish 25 missions.
Okay.
And he asked me, he said, Sergeant Hallem, would you like to receive a field promotion to second lieutenant? And I was 19 years old now.
Okay.
And he said, I want to start a radio school here on the base. And I want to put you in charge of the radio school.
Okay.
He said, this is not a command. You can volunteer to do it, or you can not volunteer. You know, I said, well, sir, if it's all the same with you, I don't think I want the field commission.
Okay.
And I think I'll stay with the crew, you know. Well, we didn't get a chance to stay together.
Okay.
They were going to ship us out before Christmas. And we went to the flight surgeon, and he said, well, you fellows are not capable of flying now. Said, you've finished 25 missions, and I'll not approve you to be moved until after Christmas.
Okay.
So his name was Humphreys.
Humphreys? Okay.
So he signed us, you know, and we stayed at our home base for Christmas.
Okay.
And then they began to ship us out to other bomb groups. Well, they shipped me to Northern Ireland,
Okay.
to a depot. And, well, first I went to the depot, and then they shipped me to Northern Ireland, went across a boat from the Isle of Man, and ended up teaching in a radio school in Northern Ireland for
Okay.
about 2 months.
As a staff sergeant or a tech
a
sergeant?
tech sergeant.
As a tech sergeant.
Yeah, I was
What
teaching
were you thinking?
with another fellow. you know.
Right. Yeah.
So I was, you know, I could be